Hello, my name is Luby, and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Last time we arrived at a little summer getaway house with Lily and Hanako, and now we're gonna see where this goes. Ahem.
Is he still sleeping?
I think so. I'm not. I am, however, incredibly tired.
It's getting late in the morning.
I know that.
He likely stayed up to watch television. I could hear it from our bedroom.
Only because I couldn't get to sleep.
Should we wake him?
Don't do that, Hanako. Please.
No, we should leave him. I doubt he'd want to be woken early if he didn't get much sleep during the night.
Thank you, Lily.
Besides, he sounds so peaceful. It would be a shame to wake him when he's like this.
Keep a straight face, Sasao. It is nice she cares so much, though.
Hanako, could you go to the fridge and fish out what's needed to make lunch?
All right, just the vegetables and rice?
That should be enough. We only need something simple, as we can eat in town later.
Hanako's footsteps on the carpeted floor can be heard, moving away from the living room. As they do, I feel Lily's hand gently rest on my chest. It takes a titanic effort not to react, but something about her makes me think she knows I'm awake. A long silence passes. The only thought in my mind is of that gentle, outstretched hand laying upon my chest. After an indiscernible amount of time, Lily withdraws her hand.
Good morning, Hisao.
Conceding defeat all too easily, I prop myself up and rub my eyes. By the way, sorry if my voice sounds a little weird today. I think I'm kinda sick. A little, just a little sick, as a treat. So yeah, sorry if you sometimes hear like a sniffle, like right now. But let's keep going. How do you know?
Your breathing was off.
Well, that makes sense. She couldn't have needed that long to work it out. Knowing her hearing, she likely knew before laying her hand on me.
If you want to sleep more, you should really go to bed earlier. I heard the television going long into the night.
Sorry about that. The medications have been interfering with my sleep for a while now. Even if I'm tired, I have trouble actually sleeping.
I'm sorry for bringing it up, Hisao.
I sigh. This is exactly the kind of thing I wish others wouldn't do. Address it or wave her off. I don't want to wave her off. I don't know. Don't want to be rude. Let's just address it. Come on. You worry about me more than I do at times. It just means I have to sleep a bit longer, that's all.
But still,
I'd say that I look absolutely fine, but I guess it wouldn't have a lot of meaning for you. She gives a sigh of consternation before trailing off with an amused chuckle, giving up the point.
if you say so, please do take care of yourself, Hisao.
Go on. Hanako could use some help. She moves to protest, but reluctantly acquiesces and disappears into the kitchen, her hand running along the smooth, white walls as she slowly walks. That's how you say it, right? Acquiesces? For a while, I sit and watch television in an attempt to wake myself a little more, but it's futile. I don't have anything better to do, so I follow Lily's lead. As around the corner, I see Hanako and Lily, backs turned, quietly cutting food on the granite-colored counter. I am temporarily engrossed as I watch Lily guiding the knife down carefully with a finger on the cabbage she's cutting, each slice delivered slowly, but with precision. She seems a little slow, but considering that she can't see what she's doing, it's a small wonder she can cook at all, let alone for both her and Hanako. I can see with my eyes, but I can't even cook. I've made eggs before, and that's the extent of it. Hi, Hanako. Lily, want any help?
Is that Hisao?
Why is she saying ah?
Is that Hisao? Oh, morning, Hisao.
Lily jerks back in surprise before turning around, her yelp immediately drawing Hanako and me to her side. What's... A small trickle of scarlet falls downward from her pale fingertip, the knife having cut just deep enough to draw blood. Oh no! With the television sound masking my footsteps, she must not have noticed me coming. To compensate for having to use touch to guide everything she does during cooking, she must need to pay extra attention.
Lily! Don't worry, Hanako. It's just a small wound.
You should still get a band-aid on it, at least until it stops bleeding. First aid stuff would be in the bathroom, right?
I think so. Will you be okay here, Hanako?
I frown at how little heed she's paying to herself as Hanako gives a quick, almost automatic nod.
It's fine. I can keep making lunch.
An awkward silence reigns as I set the bottle of antiseptic and box of band-aids on the side of the sink, Lily's finger held out for me to treat. The lid of the bottle comes off with a minimum of resistance, and the small ball of cotton I soak in liquid stains a pale green. Okay, hold still. This probably hurt a bit. She gives a small nod as I take hold of her hand to steady it. With all the tenderness I can muster, I gently bring the dampened wad to the small red line.
Ah,
What? I barely touched it.
sorry.
I give a sigh, both at her reaction and to settle my own nerves. Her pain tolerance is startlingly low. I would tell you to man up, but I can't really do that. As she gives a small giggle, I can take advantage of her momentary distraction and gently press the cotton against her finger a few times. Thankfully, it's enough to do the job. We both settle somewhat as I bring the band-aid over the tip of her finger, covering the wound while making sure not to get stuck to her fingernail. There, finished. You can move now. Taking her hand from mine, she gently clasps it in the other.
Thank you.
It's no problem. It's the least I can do after causing you to hurt yourself after all. She lowers her head slightly at the apology, absent-mindedly rubbing her hand in what seems to be embarrassment.
I really don't mind.
Her answer doesn't seem to make much sense, given that what happened is pretty clearly my fault. I can't help grimacing at her, despite the fact that her dainty smile still holds. She must not like being reminded of the limitations her lack of sight imposes on her. It's something I can't possibly fault her for. I've fallen prey to the same kind of feelings before, despite my condition not being nearly as ubiquitous in my life. Neither of us any the happier. We head back to the various smells of cooking food coming from the kitchen. I lay out the plates of food, steam slowly rising from the well-cooked rice and curry dishes, while Hanako lays out the cutlery. Knife one side, fork on the other. Western. How perfectly fitting for someone like Lily. As we take our seats, taking careful heed of the dark red tablecloth hanging below our knees, Lily emerges from the kitchen. In her hands are 3 glasses and a bottle of wine. Oh shit, we're gonna get fucked up again. As I recall our previous run-in with that devilish elixir, I hide my face in my palm. Alcohol? Seriously? She pauses as she reaches the table, a playful grin perched in her face.
Akira specifically gave permission to take a bottle from her collection.
Not only does she give alcohol to minors, she even lets them pilfer their own. The perfect model of a responsible adult, Akira is not. More to the point, though, is that this is hardly a meal deserving of alcohol. I'm starting to think Lily's the type to easily become hooked on things. That's not really the problem. I don't really have any qualms with it, but didn't you have a bad experience with it last time?
Last time was likely due to drinking too much, so a single glass shouldn't prove a problem.
Again, sorry for the sniffles.
Think of it as a learning experience.
I can't recall many learning experiences that made me feel rotten before putting me to sleep, but I'll take your word for it. She dips an uninjured finger inside to feel the liquid level, tip against the bottom as the liquid rises up. The white of her finger almost seems to glow as the sunlight hits it, the delicate outline blurred and refracted by the glass. Her fingers are definitely longer than mine, the kind I'd think more suited to a pianist than a teacher. She'd likely have done well if she learned to play. We quickly dig into our meal, forks and knives clattering against plates. None of us are particularly eager to speak while eating, Lily altogether too reserved for such a thing, Hanako probably too shy to start a conversation, and I too busy savoring the food. Such a pedestrian activity, eating together at a table. It seems so utterly normal, yet it makes me realize how long it's been since I've done something like this. Just the 3 of us sitting around a single table, eating as if we were a malformed family. Maybe this trip, as far away from everything as we were, was worth it. It takes quite a long time, but eventually we all finish our surprisingly filling meal. The wine, thankfully, has little effect, given we've only had a glass or 2 each. I slump back into the seat, rubbing my stomach contentedly. I'm stuffed. Lily pats her mouth with a napkin. Twice, only twice, and with evenly timed intervals in between. It's hard to tell sometimes whether how she acts is a well-trained routine or a well-rehearsed act.
I think I must be as well. Did you like it, Hanako?
It was nice. Now that we're well fed, shall we be off?
Off? Where?
You weren't privy to the discussion between Hanako and me earlier.
I get the impression that she's having a subtle dig at my sleeping in.
We'll be going into the town nearby.
I guess I should have expected two girls to take a holiday as an excuse to go shopping, no matter where on the planet they may be. I'm interested to see more around the north, though, so this can only be a good thing. Sounds good. How long's the walk in, then?
It's supposed to be around a mile to a mile and a half.
Nearby, huh? Great. Just great. As we climb up the path surrounded by trees and undergrowth, I watch Lily and Hanako walking ahead. The slight breeze all but whisks away the sound of Lily's cane gently tapping on the ground. I notice that Lily's since removed the band-aid now that the bleeding of her finger has stopped. A deep, lung-filling breath of the fresh country air makes me wish all the harder that the air around home had been quite so clean. It can't have even been half a mile, but I'm already working up a sweat. It isn't a pleasantly cool day, though, so I shouldn't be too hard on myself for it. Yeah, don't worry about it, dude. Whenever I walk up a hill, I'm like, just the whole way up. I am not the most fit person. Hey, Lily, how well do you know this town anyway?
Since I spent quite a few of my vacations here up until I entered Yamaku, I'd say I know it fairly well. We used to drive there once a weekend then.
How I wish Akira was here to drive us now. I quickly take a moment to rub my hands a couple of times, staving off the oddly cold feeling in them. Did you like it up here?
I'd say it was nice during winter, but as you can work out, summers get a little too hot for comfort. It's nice and quiet, at least. My family's real house is quite far south. When they left Japan, my parents gave it to Akira and me. Only Akira lives there now, after my moving into Yamaku.
Well, quiet certainly describes this place, though lonely is how I'd put it. Other than the prophesized small town, there isn't another soul for miles around. Coming from a home nestled deep within the big city, it's certainly different. I think that if I'd not come to Yamaku, staying out in the country like this would be too much of a change to get used to. After getting accustomed to the school's isolation, though, the idea of living in a place such as this has become almost inviting, to be somewhere away from the hustle and bustle of the metropolitan centers. Also, this music in the background is so good. I love it. I just love all the fucking music in this game. It's so good.
So, Hisao, have you been to Hokkaido before?
Nah, I used to live down south, and we never had any field trips or holidays up this far.
Well, it's a new experience for you then.
Yeah, it is. I'm surprised at how nice it feels here. How about you, Hanukkah? She shakes her head from side to side.
It's my first time too.
As we continue walking, I begin to feel pins and needles in my legs. It's a little disturbing, given there's no reason for it to be happening. Could you two hold on a moment? I just need to...
Is anything wrong?
Nah, I've just got pins and needles and... Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh god. Oh, no, wait, no. Bad music's playing, there's a heartbeat thing. No, come on. This is a happy moment. Come on, don't make it sad. My vocal cords suddenly become taut as my chest tightens instantaneously. I quickly pull my upper arm over it, trying to quell the shot of pain spreading throughout my entire body.
Hisao?
Lily's face is only mildly concerned, not knowing the sight which Hanako's recoiling from. I'm fine. Just... tired. I remove my arm from my chest and force myself to begin walking again. It's just a minor heart flutter, so it'll pass like the others. It only takes a couple of steps before my body violently revolts against me, my legs suddenly beginning to give way underneath me, and all tension in my knees seeming to evaporate. Before I can react, they uselessly give way under my weight, leaving me only just enough time to brace myself and fall into all fours. Ah, damn. Hissa! As I look up to her, I realize my face is still taut with pain, only adding that much more to her worrying.
Hisao! Hanako, tell me what's going on! Hanako, tell me!
Hanako quickly moves to my side as Lily almost panics, having little clue as to exactly how bad a condition I'm in. While she stands there petrified, I lower my face and take a deep breath. I come to a realization that makes me endlessly irritated with my stupid self. With all the excitement of my new surroundings, I'd entirely neglected to take my medications last night or even this morning. Taking another breath, the acute pain in my chest begins to die down as suddenly as it had arrived. Thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God. As it does, I become acutely aware of the sweat by now pouring off my face and the two scared girls around me. Hisao! I'm fine, Lily. I'm fine. I screw up my brow in an effort to lever myself up, Hanako's arms quickly moving to catch me if I fall as I stumble a bit before regaining my balance. I look to Lily and Hanako, worry written on both of their faces. I feel awful, utterly awful. I think we should go back. Realizing the futility of protesting, I look away in frustration. Fine. Damn! Oh, that sucked! Oh, man, that sucked. God. Okay, yeah, I don't know what else to say. That sucked. Like, just poor Hisao. That's like one of his most violent encounters so far, other than like at the beginning of the game. I opened my eyes groggily, completely bereft of energy. For a while, I simply lie down lifelessly, staring at the ceiling as I review the events of the morning in an attempt to organize my thoughts. We went to walk to town. My heart nearly gave way. We came back. I took my pills. I slept. I can only remember each period of time as a snapshot, but the timeline is clear enough. The memory of the girls' faces as they struggled to stand is an unpleasant one, stinging my feelings harshly. Also, the fact that I mispronounced and stuttered so many times during the very serious moment also really sucked. If I look at the ceiling hard enough, I can imagine the tile edges and small dimples of the ceiling in the hospital. That fact alone is enough to make me sit up and try to pull myself together. I scratch the back of my disheveled hair, glancing around the room. Lily and Hanako are nowhere to be seen, and the television's turned off. The clock above it says it's pretty late in the afternoon. The noticeably reddened sky outside the windows confirms it further. I turn and pick myself off the futon, swaying slightly as I put out my arms for balance. I suppose I better go look for the girls to see if they're all right. As I look out the window, I faintly see something in the distance. Straining my eyes, I can just make out the shape of a person's figure. Her long, blonde hair, swaying in the faint breeze, makes her almost seem to melt into the bright yellow of the wheat field. Without a second thought, I leave the room to follow that lone apparition. The brightness of the setting sun assaults my freshly woken eyes, forcing me to avert them until they adjust. The long yellow strands of wheat brush against my legs as I wade through them, the densely grown field making it hard to advance. Regardless, my eyes stay fixed ahead, true to that solitary figure. Within minutes I reach her, meters behind her turn back. Lily? She simply nods. Where's Hanako?
She's in bed. She went to sleep after I calmed her down.
She says it matter-of-factly and with as few words as possible, as if saying any more was strictly forbidden. There's something different about her. Her normally confident figure seems oddly fragile, her body offering no resistance to the breeze blowing her skirt. The strands of wheat sway from side to side while a deafening pause passes, the only sound being their rustling. As we stand in the field alone, I know what I have to ask. What's wrong, Lily? You're not acting like you usually do.
Remember when I talked of my family, Hisao?
Your family? I look downwards in thought, sifting through my scattered memories. The event seems to leap ready to hand when I search for it, rising to the surface as soon as it was recalled. After Hanako's birthday party? She gives a single, simple nod.
It was nice, back then. You and I celebrating with Hanako. Simply sharing presents, talking, having fun together. It was almost as if we were a family. One small, misshapen family. I thought that could just go on forever, just the three of us, happily together.
She takes a long breath, a slight shakiness to it just barely audible through the moving air.
Even if my family was so far away, as long as we were together, that was all I needed. I don't want to lose you, Hisao. I didn't even realize of how afraid I was of losing someone else until today. Until...
I'm sorry, Lily. I know my body's weak, but even then I make the most stupid of mistakes.
Don't apologize. Please, don't apologize.
Lily? She turns to face me, her pale cheeks stained with tears. One misguided step after another, she stumbles towards me, her arms held out in search of so much as a faint brush against me. My heart doesn't race nor pound as I step towards Lily, gently taking and steadying her in my arms as she quickly clutches to me, sobbing. With her face trembling against my shoulder, the next words from her mouth are the last I expected.
I love you, Hisao. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Don't go away, I beg of you. Never, ever go away. I love you, so please.
So, that's why she's been acting like this. That tender voice when I called her, her thoughtless concern at the slightest pain I might feel. After having been left in Japan without her family and with only Akira, Hanako and me around, she was afraid of losing yet another person who was close to her. She was genuinely worried for me. It's a strange feeling, a mix of surprise and sorrow, yet also the deepest gratitude I think I've ever felt. The only reaction I can muster among my conflicting emotions is a calm sigh. You idiot.
Hisao?
For a fleeting moment, I feel her body become still. The only movement to be felt is the calm afternoon breeze. I said it before, didn't I? It's only natural to feel concerned about those around you. I'm still here, and I'll always be here, because I want to see you more each day, to share in your happiness, to support you in your sadness. But most of all, I'll still be here because I want to see your smile, your true smile. A single gust of wind rustles the long strands of wheat. A second's silence passes. Smile when you want to smile. Cry when you want to cry. I love you, Lily, so you don't have to hold back anymore. With that, her arms clutch my back as tightly as she can, her face buried beside mine. Her tears fall down my back, and she cries unrestrainedly as the last of her resistance melts away.
Hisao! Hisao! Hisao!
I close my eyes and bring my head down to her shoulder, holding her shaking frame tightly. It's okay, Lily. I'll never go away. I promise. We slowly walk back to the house, holding each other tightly as we take a seat inside. Lily leans her head into my shoulder as I put my arm around her waist. Neither of us has any want to break the silence. With her eyes shut, it's hard to work out whether she's fallen asleep. Not that I mind, the warmth of her body leaning against me, the softness of her hand delicately held in mine. For a long, long time we sit leaning against one another, sharing our warmth and feelings as night eventually begins to settle in. Lily's gentle, soft voice ends the silence.
Thank you, Hisao.
Thank you.
For returning my feelings.
Did you think I wouldn't?
There was the possibility.
I take a deep breath and thought. That much was only my fault. It's funny, actually. I was thinking of telling you about my own feelings sometime soon. I guess in that way you saved me the effort. She raises her head a little and gives a tiny, amused giggle. I smile at how earnest it is, so girlish in its lightness. She collects herself soon afterward, her hair resting against my shoulder. Feeling a bit better? She gives a small nod.
You are thoughtful, Hisao. That's why I like you.
I'm sorry I'm like this. As much as I didn't want to make you concerned for me, I couldn't do anything to prevent it.
Don't apologize for it. Please, don't.
Lily?
Have I ever apologized for my blindness? Even once? You can't help the way you were born, Hisao. There's no point in apologizing for who you are.
She says this with surprising conviction. In the end, it was perhaps this mentality which spurred her to befriend me in such a short time, in addition to her motherly instincts. She did seem to become trusting very quickly, but I never questioned why. Now it seems obvious that she did so to help me as I went through one of the lowest points of my life. I moved to respond, but cut myself off as I feel her fingers run gently through my hair. I feel their soft and delicate touch moving downwards to trace the contours of my face, her palm finally settling on my cheek.
You are a beautiful person, Hisao. Please don't ever apologize for that.
For a moment, I'm utterly speechless. I slowly bend my head down, placing a tender kiss on her light but voluminous hair. We're a couple of right old fools, aren't we?
We are.
After a long calm, she speaks again.
Hisao,
Yes?
I wouldn't mind if you...
I feel her hand tensing under mine, trembling slightly. My mouth opens, but try as I might, I can't formulate a response to her proposition. Lily. Before I can say a word, she slips her hand from under mine and tenderly holds the side of my face once more. God. I've been trying to keep refined. I've been trying to not say anything, try not to break the moment, but God. Okay.
Please.
I give a peaceful smile, holding her hand against my cheek as I nod a single time. Okay. As I look into her eyes, she leans towards me. Her delicate lips touch mine as she guides herself with her hand. She breaks off not a second later, faintly smiling.
I love you, Hisao.
We kiss again, this time with both of us meeting the other. While the previous kiss was one of love, this is one of lust, our tongues meeting and our breathing heavy. After precious seconds, we part, both our faces well and truly flushed. Both of us bring our fingers to our lips in unison, recalling that fleeting feeling, rapidly becoming buried by both our urges and bashfulness. Lily is the first to shift uncomfortably, though. What is it?
Should we get more comfortable?
Okay. Now that she mentions it, this futon would be a bit too narrow to do much on. Considering the thoughts running through both our minds, it's no small wonder one of us has any measure of foresight left. I take her hands and guide her sideways as I move, the brief and awkward dance ending with both of us tentatively sitting down on the floor opposite each other. As I reach forward, okay. I knew this was gonna happen. This is still really cute moment, and this is still whoa, romance, relationship stuff. But yeah, this is the adult content stuff. Okay, let's hope this isn't super, but this is still just really fucking cute. I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting I'm just a mess of emotions right now, dude. That was so fucking cute. And now I'm gonna have to be put through one of the most harrowing experiences of my life as I try to narrate a sex scene or whatever. Oh, fucking whiplash. Either way, it's still really cute, and I really love these two getting together. Oh my god. Oh. Okay, let's just read it, get it over with. As I reach forward to pull her top up, she stops after she moves her hands to do the same.
You're shaking.
I pause for a moment and look at my hands. Sure enough, they're quivering slightly. Whether it's from nervousness or excitement, I'm not sure. I guess I am.
So you're as nervous as I am, then?
I withdraw my hands and sigh, steadying myself. We have plenty of time, so there's no need to rush this. I mean, honestly, I am gonna rush it a bit if this is going where I think it's going. Also, are you not afraid at all that Hanako might walk in at any moment? Sorry, it's my first time, so I'm a bit... She giggles shakily, all but confirming what I reasonably deduced by now.
It's the same for me. I'm happy we could share this together.
I match her smile twofold, leaning forward and taking her body in my arms as she reaches to hug me back. I love you, Lily.
You already said that.
I can't help grinning. Even in such a situation, she still has her wits about her. Breaking our embrace. I was getting this is so cute, but I don't want to read this. Breaking our embrace, we decided to take off our own clothing. Well, it's easier this way. I don't doubt it's just an attempt to distract ourselves from our nerves. Well, with slightly stiff hands, I begin to slide the first button out from my shirt. Oh god, I'm gonna have to learn how to censor this stuff, aren't I? I'm gonna have to take this video into like an editing program and try to censor stuff out with like a giant black bar. Oh god. Oh, well, let's not focus on that right now. Once we remove the last of our clothes, which end up haphazardly piled behind us, my breath is taken by the sight in front of me. Please don't show a naked Lily sprite or a naked CG, please. Yep, there it is. Oh god, I have to narrate this shit. You can't fucking. Okay, no, you. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm doing this for free. Okay, just read it out. Just read it out. Her long, shapely legs, full hips, and her breasts, plump and dainty. Her slightly blushing face, delicate and reserved, is framed by the bangs of her hair. By the way, I totally censored it out, but like this is a naked sprite. Her hands, tightly held behind her, only serve to further accentuate her chest. Her tall and pale body is beautiful when bared. This girl in front of me, reserved yet playful, astute yet hospitable, is the girl I've fallen in love with. I lean forward, delicately taking her shoulders in my hands. As I do so, she brings her hands to my chest. With a slightly uneven breath, we lean into a deep kiss. I feel one of Lily's hands slowly slide up to my shoulder, it and her head very gently moving forwards. Assuming her intent, I lean back into the floor. I'm not gonna voice moans. And then here's a CG. Okay, this is a lewd CG, yeah? But this is actually really cute. I can't show it, of course, but it's really cute. I can probably show the top half. I can probably show the cute part. She lowers herself beside me, one hand stroking my hair as the other moves across my chest. The feeling of her breast against it is enough to excite me. This must be her way of taking in what I've already seen of her. Despite her lack of sight, she engraves every detail of my bare body and chest into her mind. When her middle finger falls into the slight recess of my chest scar, a lingering effect of my operation so many months ago, she slowly runs her hand down its length. This is the scar from my surgery. They had to do this in order to operate on my heart. For a moment, she's lost for words. The idea of such extensive scarring adding a new worry for her. Her expression changes from curiosity to apprehension.
Should we really be doing this kind of thing?
Those words bother me beyond what is rational. Lily's face breaks my heart more than even her words possibly could, yet I don't even know the answer to her question. I can't let this condition dominate me forever. It may not even be medically advisable, but I outright refuse to live my life in such a prison. It's okay, Lily. This much will be okay. Her troubled expression holds for a moment longer, but she eventually acquiesces, her hand moving to my lower chest and then my thigh. Oh, okay, that's cute. With a look of slight surprise, she slowly moves her hands downwards, her breath catching as she brushes the side of my lower hair. Okay, yeah, I read that out. Oh my god. She tentatively moves her hand sideways, delicately touching the most honest part of my body.
This is...
Yeah. Our nervousness peaks as the act begins, her hand gently patting up and down as lightly as if it would break if breathed upon. I'm not sure whether it's just to steady myself or because I want to steady her, but I take my free hand and hold the side of her face in it. The feeling of her hair and soft skin is nice, and it seems to lighten her mood a bit. The mere fact that I'm being touched by her is surprisingly erotic. I feel my body relaxing as I submit to the pleasure overwhelming me. Long minutes pass in almost total silence, our heavy breathing the only sound to be heard in the house. Lily's fingers stop affectionately stroking my hair, and she opens her lips once again.
Hisao.
I wait a second for the rest of the sentence, but none is forthcoming. She may be trying to take the lead, but she's still incredibly nervous. I can't help smiling as I stroke her hair from her face a couple of times, reassuring her. As nervous as she may be, I'm thankful that Lily's taking the lead. I'd probably be just as anxious as she if I were attending to her. Okay. She pauses a moment before giving a small nod, sitting up and shifting her legs over mine. Once again, my breath is stolen by the magnificent sight of her body over mine. Another CG, oh my god, and this one's even more lewd. Oh my god, I'm putting this on YouTube. Okay, I can only look on frozen as she delicately lowers herself, resting her reddened lips over me. She slowly begins to move her hips downwards, her softness enveloping my consciousness. She takes a deep breath to collect herself, her face remaining steady. With her hands taken in my body in lieu of sight, the intimate situation muddles her usual efforts to compensate for lack of eye contact. She gradually lowers herself onto me, her knees and hands supporting her as she does. Her entire body tenses as I enter. I read that. I'm gonna vomit. No. Her entire body tenses as I enter, her expression obviously one of stifled pain. Despite that, I can't help savoring the soft, warm feeling enveloping my consciousness, the surge of pleasure overcoming all my senses. I know I'm reading this like really awkwardly because this is very awkward, but also this is super fucking cute. Like, God. The last vestiges of it all but disappear inside her while her nails slightly scrape into my chest in an effort to stop herself from yelping in pain. A pained moan, too much for her to suppress completely, escapes from her lips. As I open my mouth to comfort her, I see the barely visible red drops from between her legs. Yeah. Lily, if it's too much. She clenches her mouth tightly, quickly and forcefully shaking her head from side to side in defiance. After a couple of seconds, she relaxes her body slightly, though she's still obviously far from being comfortable.
It's okay. I'm okay.
She swallows hard, trying to collect herself. Lifting herself slowly and bringing herself back down, she relaxes a little more as the feelings of pleasure begin to overtake those of pain. I'm having essentially like 3/4 of the screen here. You're only going to see the corners. Her breathing starts to match the same ragged patterns as mine, her body moving almost teasingly slowly. She looks as if she's slowly beginning to enjoy the act, my feelings finally reaching her. I'm not sure if she's keeping herself at this speed for her sake or for mine, but either way, with this slow and steady pace, I think I can keep my body in check. It's funny, in a way, that even now I'm depending on her. For us to be joined together like this, our feelings so close, it makes me glad. To be sharing our first moment together like this is an almost overwhelming feeling. I love you, Lily. I'm not... Okay, she is moaning the name Hisao right now. I'm not gonna... I'm reading all this out, but I feel like you should be able to respect me if I don't want to read out the moans. If I don't want to voice act the moans, thank you. I can feel her body tensing, her breathing and movements becoming steadily less carefully controlled. How much longer is this gonna go? I'm happy to be making her feel so good, but as my thoughts become increasingly focused, I can feel myself rapidly nearing my limit. Screen goes to white. Control of my body is instantaneously wrested from my mind as I grip my teeth hard, a loud moan escaping as I climax and my hips hit hers. Her body hunches over at the same moment, her breasts touching on my chest. We stay locked in an all-encompassing ecstasy for a brief moment, my mind completely taken by the feeling for a precious few seconds. It ends all too soon, and our bodies collapse in exhaustion, with Lily barely staying on top of me. I lifelessly manage to wrap my arms around her limp, sweating body, and for moments we simply lay there, silently savoring the contact with each other while we recover from the experience. Neither of us had thought ourselves prepared for such a thing, of that much I'm certain. Entirely drained, far past the point of conversation, I look at her tired face. It looks as if the exertion, both physical and mental, has almost forced her to the verge of collapse. I love you, Lily. She nods, weakly, rubbing my hair with her left hand. If we could simply remain together like this for an eternity, it would be a paradise like no other. And it's over! It's over! Ah! Okay. Oh my god, it's over. It's over. I can rest. I can rest. And Hanako did not walk in on us, thank God. That was very hard to do. That's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do for the internet. Oh God. I just need to recover from that for a bit. Like, give me a few seconds here, you know. Okay, that was you know, that was just really cute, though. That was just cute, though. You know, it was sex, but it was just cute. That was very cute. That whole day, that whole scene, that was incredible. 10 out of 10. Fucking love this game. I love Hisao and Lily. They're so cute. Oh my god. After being woken by a sound, I opened my eyes with a measure of reluctance. Turning my head to the left, I find the rain outside sweeps against the windows loudly. Spray after wind-blown spray lashes against the glass, as if trying its hardest to make up for the summer's previous heat. I sit up in the futon, holding the back of my neck to try and subdue the pain from my awkward sleeping position. By all accounts, I should be lamenting the turn in the weather, given that this is our last day here. The events of yesterday refuse to stop flooding my mind, though. The feeling of holding Lily's crying body in my arms, the rush of lust and hormones that flowed through us as we spent the night together. It seems almost futile to try and rationalize everything that happened. In an attempt to distract myself, I groan and lean over to retrieve my bag without standing. Pulling out one bottle after another, I take the daily regimen's worth of pills from their containers and swallow them without further ado. Good that you're keeping check of this now. It took a surprisingly short amount of time to get used to swallowing pills without water. That said, I suppose the same thing goes for getting used to living in a school for disabled students. Remembering Yamaku, I became all the more grateful for having the chance to get away, even if it's just for the shortest of times. I appreciate the chance to spend time alone with Lily and Hanako, away from the bustle of school life, even considering the latest complications. I never thought I'd say it, but the idea of living away from the city in a nice, tranquil area is an inviting one. It's a thought that barely a year ago would have seemed simply ludicrous. A flash of pink, no doubt Hanako's gown, peeks from around the corner. Realizing I must look aside since I've only just woken up, I slap the remaining pills into my mouth and run a hand through my hair.
Good morning, Hisao.
Good. I replied to her, completely forgetting that I'm in the middle of swallowing a particularly large pill. Coughing and sputtering, I violently gag on it.
Hisao.
After sputtering loudly and tapping my chest a couple of times to force it down, I managed to recover. I'm fine. Sorry, I forgot I was swallowing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I hold my hand up, gesturing for Hanako to stop. I gagged. It's my fault. Good morning, Hanako. She pauses a moment before bowing in reply. Staggering in behind Hamiko is the familiar figure of Lily, also dressed in her pajamas. With her eyes full of sleep and hair bedraggled, she's a sight to behold. Hi, Lily.
Good morning, Hisao.
For a while, a silence hangs in the air as neither of us knows what to do. Given what happened last night, we both have more than enough reason to be finding the situation awkward. Just how are we meant to react to meeting each other after something like, that? The best course of action would probably be to talk to Lily alone to set things in order. I'll start making breakfast. Lily evidently catches on to my train of thought.
I'll help. Hanako, could you set the table?
She nods, her head disappearing into a cupboard as she quickly goes about her assigned task. I rub a little more sleep out of my eyes as I wander over to the fridge and take out some milk, and Lily grabs various brightly colored boxes from some of the lower cupboards to my side. While we make the rather bland-looking meal, I whisper somewhat more quietly than usual. Knowing Lily's hearing, she won't have a trouble catching on to what I say. Are you okay, Lily? After last night? She gives a delicate nod, her expression weak. Though her tiredness surely plays a part, she seems genuinely unsure about what's happened between us and how to move ahead. I can't say I blame her, considering my feelings are the same.
I'm sorry, Hisao. I wasn't thinking straight yesterday. I never stopped to consider you or Hanako, and even went as far as...
She's winding herself up. With her hands and voice both tightening, I give her a gentle bump to try and lighten up the situation. You don't have to apologize. I said I liked you as well, after all.
But I...
As her composure begins to falter, it becomes obvious there's no alternative. Turning to Lily, I gently embrace her tall frame. She offers no resistance at all, thankfully pulling back just from the edge of her emotions. Okay, hi, Hanako! Despite our reassuring embrace lasting only a matter of seconds, I notice Hanako wordlessly watching. The plate in her hand hovers inches above the table, her action halted midway by the sight. Well, the clatter of utensils against plates is the only sound to be heard as we silently eat. Whereas before only two of us may have been unsure of ourselves, the entire situation has changed. After weeks of blissful friendship, whiling away the days with shared meals and chatter with little meaning, the relationship of Lily and me, no, that all of us has irreversibly changed. I can't take this. Lily? She solemnly nods, gently laying her spoon onto the plate in front of her. Neither of us knows exactly how to regard each other, let alone how Hanako would view us.
This might seem abrupt, but I've confessed to Hisao.
Oh, she's blushing. For a moment, Hanako looks almost confused, precisely the reaction I thought she would have. She eventually nods, her spoon still in her mouth as she does.
Did you, accept?
I did. She gives a smile so large and so earnest I find myself blushing. I think it's the brightest I've ever seen her expression look.
Then I'm happy. I'm really, really happy. I'm sorry for not telling you anything about it before. Things have been...
Hanako shakes her head from side to side emphatically, apparently forgetting in her rush that Lily couldn't possibly notice. She begins fiddling with her fingers, looking a little more nervous than she did before.
To be honest, I began to think you might like each other a while ago. At first, I didn't really know what to think about it, but I decided in the end that if my friends are happy, then I'm happy. I was really glad to have another friend when we met Hisao, so you finding love through him is even better, right?
A feeling of relief at her acceptance of our relationship falls over me like a wave. The same happens to Lily, judging by her expression.
Thank you, Hanako. I really appreciate you being so understanding.
Lily's voice still sounds slightly apologetic, or at least unsure. This doesn't escape Hanako, who appears lost in thought for a few moments before turning to me.
Hisao, do you mind if Lily and I go outside for a bit?
No. Feel free.
Hanako.
Hanako gets up from her seat, taking Lily's hand and almost dragging her from the table in her excitement. Considering Lily's typically slow and steady pace, Hanako's haste makes her footing awkward and she almost loses her balance a couple of times. It's a pretty amusing sight, leaving me wordless as I watch them disappear out the door. It's only now that I realize the rain stopped, being replaced by a sky seemingly all the more vivid and bright to make up for the morning's drab, gray expanse. For Hanako, this must be a pretty big revelation. Lily and I are really the only people she associates with, almost as if we were parents in her own stead. I suppose that might well be the best way to describe the relationship we share. A father, mother, and daughter, all playing around in our little make-believe family as if it could last forever. It might be a strange dynamic, and one that certainly can't last for long. But maybe, just for this one small moment, it's okay. As I stand from the table and go to join Lily and Hanako in the fields outside, I nod to myself in affirmation. This one small moment of happiness, no matter how brief, will last with me, with all of us, forever. Submerged deep in the hot water, I let a drawn-out sigh escape my lips. The feeling of seemingly every muscle in my body relaxing is euphoric. I have no idea how long it's been since I had a genuine hot bath, but right now I can hardly be bothered trying to remember. Oh, I cannot read that. I can't. My little recording thing is. Can I move it? I can't move it. Okay. Let's see. What does that say? I think just from the bottom of the letters, it might say, maybe I'm going the simple fact that for once I get to have a real bath more credit than it's due. Maybe I'm giving the simple fact that for once I get to have a real bath more credit than it's due. The chance to just calm down, allow myself to unwind, and have some time to myself is a welcome one. Kenji breaks through the window and joins me. Hanako, Lily, and I wandered about outside, exploring the extent of the surprisingly large tract of land surrounding the house. Then, we spent the majority of the afternoon resting, watching television, reading, and playing cards. It may not have been the most exciting finale to the trip, but such tranquil peacefulness is something to savor. Even after we return to the school tomorrow, I think I'll remember this little house in Hokkaido for a really long time. It's a pity we only have a couple more hours to spend here before going to get the train back. All I can do is yawn contentedly while I watch the steam slowly rising from the clear water's placid surface, my eyes eventually locking onto the ceiling. Our exams are imminent. I've barely studied at all for them. On top of that, I don't even know what I'll do after graduation. Passing exams is all well and good, but to what end? Also, now, of all times, I'm getting into a relationship. What the hell am I doing? I guess I shouldn't think like that. What's done is done, and maybe this could be viewed as just another aspect of my new life that I'm working on. I enjoy being with Lily, and there's more to life than school and a career after all. As I busily attempt to rationalize all that's happened, I hear a series of raps on the door. I pick myself up and sit upright, trying to figure out the source. 3, no more and no less, light and yet assertive in their tapping, and timed regularly enough to tune a metronome. I'd be extremely surprised if it wasn't Lily.
May I come in?
Yeah, it's Lily. I'm still in the bath, I'll be out in a sec.
I know. I know.
The voice coming from the other side of the door freezes me. After a second's thought, I rest on the side of the bath and let my arms dangle over the side. Despite trying my best to play it off, I can't help letting my mind wander. Sure, come in. With that, she opens the door, slowly walking into the room and closing it behind her. She looks oddly calm, countering my racing heart. Hey, Lily. Ah! Okay, just read it. Just read it.
Do you mind if I take a bath with you?
I don't mind. Go ahead. With a small nod, she begins to lift her sweater off her shoulders, burying her chest little by little. Am I going to have to narrate another adult content scene? Oh, God, okay. I could. Oh, Hisao, you fucking gentleman! I could do that for you if you'd like.
Refused.
Why? Her face shows she's still not overly comfortable with letting me attend to her. I can't say I blame her. She continues undressing, her shirt and skirt falling to the floor and leaving her in her white lace bra and panties. Eventually, she stands bare in the center of the room. Hey, look at that, we have the naked sprite again. Wow. Compared to last time, it's a lot easier to take in her entire figure. It's a wonderful sight. I'm like vomiting like I'm like I'm seeing like my mom and daddy kiss and going like, ew! You know?
Hisao.
Yo, oh my god, Lily. Okay.
You're thinking perverted thoughts, aren't you?
Give me a break, you're undressing in front of me. She furrows her brow in thought.
I guess this would be somewhat more erotic for you than me.
Why? Ah! She gives a small, lighthearted chuckle, which seems to settle her nerves a little.
If this is too much for you, Hisao, I can come back later.
No, this is fine. I'm just a bit, well, you're really beautiful, you know? My earnest comment draws a vivid red blush from Lily.
Hisao.
I give a small grin. She's cute when she's taken off guard.
In any case, may I come in?
Sure. I lean forwards and take her soft hands in mine, helping her over the side of the bath. She feels out the side of the bathtub and slowly lowers herself in, my breath catching when she sits and leans her back onto my front, her legs inside mine. I'd expected her to sit at the other end. I was thinking I might be able to show this, because I don't know, maybe they'd cover the breasticles with the water, but nope. Well, at least now we only have to censor like the bottom half of the screen. You can still see their faces. Letting out a long breath to calm myself, I rest my arms on the sides of the bath as I struggle to control my urges. Far from missing the sight of her assets, the feeling of her body against mine is surprisingly relaxing. If Lily is so sensitive to touch, it must be all the more so for her.
You run your baths quite hot, don't you?
A bit. Do you want me to run some cold water to cool it down a bit? She gives a small shake of her head.
No, this is fine.
Okay. The conversation comes to an abrupt end, silence taking over. A very long and very awkward silence.
Maybe this was a bit too...
Don't worry, it's okay. The situation only becomes even more awkward. As if to distract herself, Lily runs her free hand over her legs while holding one over her breasts for modesty. I sit idly, watching the wall ahead of me and the rising steam, every now and again stealing a glimpse at her body. The white of her skin glistens as she keeps sliding her hand over her legs, their length and tone all the more obvious. You know, compared to Akira, you look a lot more foreign.
I took after my mother's side, genetically. Akira took after my father's more.
I guess that makes sense. How on earth did a native Scot and a Japanese businessman meet, anyway?
My mother was a journalist. She met my father while he was at a conference in Inverness.
Ah, I see. Taking after your Scottish side would also explain your height, I suppose. I look back down at her as she nods and sigh at the ridiculousness of the situation. This really is too much, isn't it?
You're enjoying it, though, aren't you?
In some ways, yeah. I guess things turned out okay in the end. Everything settled down, Hanako took her relationship well, and we'll be going back to school tomorrow.
Indeed. It's a shame to be going back so soon, but we'll still have our memories of this place.
Memories, I suppose so. We'll have to see how everything goes once we get back, but for now, I'm just glad you like me. I've been winding myself up for weeks about that, so I'm thankful for things turning out like this. She nods, leaning into me as we share the warmth of our bodies. I'm not sure whether she'll be okay with it or not, but my temptation rapidly begins to get the better of my self-restraint. Sniffles, and hold on. More water. I have no idea how many water bottles I've drinking throughout the course of this entire series. Hey, Lily?
Yes.
How was it? Last night, that is. She pauses in thought before looking down slightly. A delicate smile finds its way onto her lips as she blushes, her body becoming more relaxed. It's more than enough to answer the question. Even as I give a small nod in response, thoughts of last night run through my mind. Considering the situation, I don't really think anyone would blame me.
Hisao, your heart's beating.
Her voice is cut off as I delicately place a hand on her thigh. While I'd resisted before, the memory of our first time is enough to make me give in. She lets her body lean into mine without a word of protest, an invitation that would be hard put to ignore. I place a small kiss on her neck to accept before slowly moving my hand over her smooth legs.
Hisao, please.
Even as she says it, her mouth curls upward into a smile, her tone caught between embarrassment and awkward giggling. Eventually, she takes one of my hands in hers, guiding it to her right breast. I greatly appreciate the tentative guidance she's willing to give me. All signs of tension in her body give way. I continue to take in the feeling of her soft skin, redoubled as my other hand slips between her legs. I wonder if the feeling of my hands on her is exaggerated by her lack of sight, since her other senses are so finely tuned. She does seem to be enjoying it to a surprising extent, after all. It gives me a somewhat odd feeling, but a pleasurable one. It only takes a few minutes before her body starts to squirm ever so slightly. Her efforts to stifle her moaning become visible as she purses her lips. Her light-hearted, whispered protestations become noticeably more quiet. This makes me realize that all her squirming against my bodies made me increasingly excited as well. Lily. I withdraw my hands to give her addled senses time to respond. Nodding, she shakily stands and offers her hands for me to lead her out of the cramped bathtub. Okay! We're doing it again! She maneuvers herself out of the bath as I do, our hands holding each other's. Eventually, I sit beside the bathtub, the two of us fussing around a little until we get comfortable. With a small grasp, desperately constrained to avoid being audible outside, she lowers herself onto me once again. Okay, God, okay. Just read it, just read it. The way she moves makes it obvious that she must still be on the verge of her climax. She slowly starts to move her hips up and down, her tongue finding mine as she holds my face upwards. I realize just how much pleasuring her has excited me. And she's moaning Sal's name again. You can see that there. Despite her clouded eyes being shut, her tightening grip on my shoulders shows that she's nearing the end of her endurance. As our breathing becomes more and more ragged, I rapidly feel my limit approaching as well. A series of harsh breaths is the only warning before her final gasp of ecstasy, her entire body tensing and her fingernails digging into my shoulders. My loins hit hers, both of us frozen against each other in climax. My loins! And it turned to white, and now we're just back. In a few precious seconds, it's all over. Lily slumping forward onto me as I try to regain myself. That was good. She takes a gulp of air before replying, steadying herself as she nods. And she's moaning, She bows her head down to give me a small kiss, my hand reaching up to hold strands of her disheveled hair as we once again sit in blissful silence. And that's the end of that day! Well, considering that now we're on the hour mark, I think this is a good place to end off the episode. Going back to Yamaku. Oh my god. This is the episode where I had to narrate 2 sex scenes. Isn't that incredible? Although, gonna be honest, those scenes were really cute, and this episode almost made me, damn cry. You could probably hear it in my voice, but god, I was breaking up. Okay, yeah, that's this episode of Katawa Shoujo. If it's not apparent by now, this game is fucking amazing. Yeah, you should just go play it yourself. Please. It's very good. But yeah, I'll see you next time, where we're heading back to Yamagu, and, yeah, honestly, I'm just really flustered right now. God, how much to recover after narrating 2 sex scenes? Okay, yeah. I'll see you next time then. Peace.